Let us start with prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheswaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha.
So today we are going to take a horary chart because so far we have been talking about the natal charts. We have been discussing about the event of marriage and childbirth by taking the natal chart. So today I plan to discuss with you a horary chart that how by taking the horary we can predict the event, and the today's event for discussion is the childbirth, which Gayatri ji has already notified, which she has already given in the Tapsil group. So I straight away now proceed to the chart and start with the discussion for that how in a horary chart we have to predict the event of childbirth. I'm sharing the chart. Aji, is it visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes,
the
sir.
chart okay? Okay. So the today's chart is now the place is Tilak Nagar, Delhi, right? And the coordinates for the place are given over here. The date of query is 28/11/2012, and the time is 17 hours, 28 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, this is the native, the lady who has come and asked. She was not having the menstrual cycle for last 1 month, and she wanted to inquire from the astrologer that whether she can presume that she has conceived, and if she has conceived, then what will be the date on which the child will be born to her, and in addition to this, what would be the sex of the child that is born to her.
అయ్యా దయచేసి అందరూ మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి. దయచేసి అందరూ మ్యూట్ చేయండి ప్లీజ్. దయచేసి అందరూ మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి.
Important in Horary, we need to, focus on certain important points while analyzing a Horary chart. The very first point, which is of prime importance, is that we have to check the genuineness of the query, whether the query which has been asked by the native is genuine or not. And for this purpose, what is important? That the moon should appear in the primary cusp or in the supporting cusp, or should be positive in the required bhavas, which are 2, 5, and 11 for the childbirth. And this point we have already discussed while discussing the childbirth for the various native charts which we have discussed so far. And if suppose moon is not appearing in the required cusp, then we need to check its star lord, and again the condition is same, that the star lord has to be either present in the either is a co-ruler of the primary cusp, or it is positive on the in the required bhava, or it's a co-ruler of the secondary cusp, or it is positive in the required bhava. Now if this condition is fulfilled, then only we will proceed ahead to analyze the chart. Otherwise, we would stop right there if moon and its star are not signifying the primary house or the supporting houses. We will not proceed with that chart. So, this is the first point, which is very, very important while discussing the Horary chart. The second point, after having checked the genuineness of the query, what we do is we would check the ascendant sub-sublord, find out whether the ascendant sub-sublord is promising the event or not. Then after the ascendant sub-sublord, we will check the sub-sublord of the primary house, whether it is promising the event or not. And finally, we will check the sub-sublord of the 11th cusp. So the cusp of importance to check the promise of event is the ascendant sub-sublord, the sub-sublord of the primary cusp, and the sub-sublord of the 11th cusp. We cannot omit, we cannot simply proceed with ascendant and the primary house sub-sublord. We have to consider for Horary, the 11th sub-sublord is very important, and unless and until the 11th sub-sublord says yes or promises the event is not likely to happen. So after checking the ascendant sub-sublord, the fifth sub-sublord, and the 11th sub-sublord, if all the sub-sublords they are promising the event to happen, then only the event will happen. If suppose the first ascendant sub-sublord and the the primary house ascendant sub-sublord are giving a promise, and 11th sub-sublord is not giving a promise, the event will not happen. Now what is important here is, without all the three making a promise of the event is not likely to happen in the absence, or if any of these says no to the event. So that is second point, which is very very important. First is you check the genuineness. After checking the genuineness, the ascendant sub-sublord should make a promise of the event. I am saying promise. Promise means we are not concerned with the final confirmation at the sub-sub level. That we will focus only when we are talking about the dasha period lords. Promise means I am talking about the star lord, or the star, or the say positional status of the planet, and the sublord. If any of the three is not promising the event, then that event cannot happen, is the second important point which you need to keep in mind. I think this point is not very strongly emphasized in the book, but this is very, very important when you take the case of Horary. After having checked the promise through the ascendant sub-sublord, the primary cusp sub-sublord, and the 11th sub-sublord, then we shall proceed to the normal analysis of the chart. The third important point. Now, while we are taking the case of Horary, in Horary, since it is based upon a divine number, it is based upon the number that has been given by the native himself or by some of the relatives of the native. So, when I talk about the transit in such cases, then unlike what we have been discussing in the case of natal charts, here the application of transit slightly is different from what we do in the natal chart. Like Horary chart is, say if somebody is asking me today that whether I am expecting a child or not, like in the present case, the lady did not have the menstrual cycle for 1 month, and she approached the astrologer to ask that whether childbirth is promised to this native or not. Childbirth is promised to this lady or not. Now, which would mean that the birth of the child, if at all it is promised, will happen within 1 year's time. Now, for that 1 year period of time, neither Saturn is going to make any change. It will never shift from one sign to the other because it stays in a sign for almost 2.5 years. In only such conditions where the Saturn is falling or having a degree something between 27 to 27 to 30, then only you can expect that it will change over to the next sign. Otherwise, it is going to stay in the same sign. Now, the question arises that if it is going to stay in the same sign, and suppose that sign is not very strongly signifying the promise of the event, then is it correct? Or whether we can predict like that, or is it possible to predict? Then the answer to this query is that for slow moving planets, what we do is sometimes if the sign lord is not making a strong promise, say for example, Saturn is moving in sign 1, and let me say that it is at 29 degrees when it is in sign 1 when I casted the chart, and then it is moving over to the sign 2. Then out of these two signs, say the Aries sign is more stronger. Now, if the Aries sign is more stronger, it would not mean that the event will happen only when it is in Aries. Here, in this case, as the position of the Saturn would be fixed in a particular sign, okay, and it is at 29 degrees. Presently, it is at 1 degree. It means it will remain for 2.5 years in this sign. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
If it remains for 2.5 years in this sign, now the childbirth cannot linger for a period of 2.5 years. It's going to happen within 1 year. It means Saturn would hardly change its sign. You get my point? And suppose here in Libra sign, Saturn is at 29 degrees. 29 degrees would mean that just within a month it is going to jump over to the next sign, right? Now, if it is going to jump over to the next time and the question is asked in the 11th month, when only 1 month has passed before the lady got stopped her menstrual cycle, then the childbirth is not going to happen within 1 month. It is to happen after 8 months, 9 months. Okay, so I have to proceed on to the next sign without bothering whether the Libra sign is more stronger than the Scorpio sign. You get this point? So in Harari, when we talk of slow moving planets, then instead of focusing upon the sign in which they transit, we have to focus upon the stars, or we have to focus upon the sub in which these planets are likely to transit. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, the next important point which we need to take into account is that unlike what we have been talking about the natal charts, that Saturn in a position 8 or 12 to its sign is not favorable. Okay. Here, such a thing is not to be taken into account because this is a divine number. And when you take this number, then the position, the planetary position, and the cuspal position, all these planets, they are fixed. You can't make a change. Even if I change it from 17 to 18, it is not going to make any difference over here in the cuspal position, in the planetary position. Only some difference will be there as far as the arc is concerned. You get this point, please? So, for slow moving planets in transit, we will focus upon their stars, the planets they transit in which stars, or we will focus upon their sun. For fast moving planets like sun, sun is also to stay for a period of 1 month. So we focus upon the sign as well as we focus upon the star. So while dealing with the analysis of Horary charts, we focus more upon the stars of the sign than on the sign. Say, seven sign is giving the significations of the event of childbirth. Eight is also giving. Nine is also giving. 10 is also giving. Now we will simply have to focus upon the star in which the sun would travel, and that would be very very important because that will help us to fix a 13 days period time for that event to happen. While I discuss the chart, I'll this point will automatically be clear. So this is another point that you need to keep in mind. Now the next point is that here also in the chart we have to focus upon the planets. When we talk about the transit of sun or we talk about the transit of moon, then in such cases we have to focus upon the planets which are posted in the primary cusp or in the supporting cusp. That is very very important. Okay, and this is what we have been doing in the natal chart, exactly the same procedure is followed over. Is it clear, please? So these were some points which you need to keep in mind. I repeat what I said. The first point is to check the genuineness, and genuineness is to be checked by looking at the moon and its star. Either the moon or its star should be linked to the primary house, or is positive in the primary house in the bhava chart, or it is linked to the supporting houses 2 and 5, which are important for the childbirth. For marriage, it is 7 and 5, which are important for the childbirth. Right? So, second point was that the ascendant sub-sublord, the primary house sub-sublord, and the 11th sub-sublord, all the three should give the promise of event. And if any of these does not give the promise of the event, then that event is not likely to happen, which means that we will have to cast another Horary chart. Okay, so that we can't do before 1 month period of time. So once you cast a Horary chart, then you have to wait for 1 month period of time. The reason is because moon completes its cycle in a chart through all the 12 rashis in 1 month. So we have to wait for 1 month, then only we can go for another Horary number, right? And then after that, I was talking about the third point was about the transit and the rules of transit, which we discussed for the natal charts. They are not followed over here while discussing the horary chart, and particularly when we are talking about the transit of the slow moving planets, Saturn and Jupiter, then we focus more upon their star lords and sublords than the sign lords. For Sun and Moon transit, the same procedure, the same method which we have been using for the natal chart is used over here. Is it clear up to this point?
Sir.
So what is horary number? I missed it, sir.
1200. One,
No, no.
two.
What does it mean, sir? And where do we use it?
See, Horary number means what? You know, if somebody is coming to you, he is without any chart. He does
Hmm.
not know his date of birth,
Hmm.
does not know the time of birth, and still he has many queries to
Hmm.
ask.
Hmm.
Okay, then in such cases, we say that you think of any number between 1 to 2193 that is based upon the sub theory.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
number has to be from 1 to 2193.
Hmm.
In sub theory, sublord theory, it has to be number 1 to 249.
249. Yeah.
Right? So that is, we think that's a divine number. It's a
Okay.
divine number. And
Hmm.
that divine number comes to a person only when he has a strong urge to know certain thing.
Okay.
Okay. So that divine number, on the basis of that divine number, a method, a procedure has been devised that how, if somebody gives you a divine number, we can know that what his basic problem is, what type of query is he asking, and how we analyze the chart.
We'll discuss it.
1200, we'll discuss this chart na.
Okay. How we are
Once,
using that
so,
number, that also we will discuss.
okay, so once
Okay,
you
sir.
put up the number 1200, then when you put the number 1200, I'll just show you this chart, sub-sublord chart, okay?
Kapilji, is there any importance of the ruling planets about the horary chart?
Ruling planets may, of course they are important, but the problem with the ruling planets is, say I have casted the chart at 10 o'clock, you casted the same chart at 12 o'clock, Murthy ji casted the same chart at 2 o'clock, somebody else casted at 6 o'clock in the evening. Now in each case the ruling planets would be different, right? So the ruling planets would be different. You can't expect to have the same ruling planets, but the chart would be same. You get the point? Time would differ, the ruling planets would differ, and at that particular instant, I don't believe in the ruling planets. But anyhow, this method has been given and it is more useful when we talk about the sub theory. In sub-sublord theory, it is of not that importance. Because in sub theory, the sublord stays for a longer period of time. But in sub theory, every sub changes within a time of 45 to, let me say, something around uh, 45 to 1 minute if I am talking of ascendant. And similarly, the sub of the various planets would depend upon their Vimshotri Dasha, the length of the Vimshotri Dasha, that how long Venus in Sun is to stay, how long Rahu in Moon is to stay, and so on. You can take the help of these numbers if you so desire. If your urge is, if you have a strong urge, and what you are thinking is, with a pure mind, then only, these ruling planets play an important role. Of course, they are important. I will not say they are not important. They are important, but I seldom use the ruling planets.
Sir, in the
Hanji.
horary, sir, only
Ji.
native is to give a
No, no,
number,
no.
or
Anybody can ask. Anybody can
on
ask.
behalf of native, anybody can ask.
Relative of the native can ask.
Any relative of the native can ask.
Yeah. No, no. Anybody can ask. Even the friend of that native can ask.
Okay, sir. Regarding that particular event,
Yes, yes. Anybody can ask.
anybody can
Anybody can
ask,
ask.
and anybody can give a number.
Yes, anybody can give a number.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right? Now, we were talking here about the number 1200. Is it okay? Here it is. Here it is 1200. Right? And if you look here, what is the sign out at this number?
Venus,
Venus. Then,
Rahu,
Rahu,
Sun, Venus.
and what are the ascendant over here?
Venus, Rahu, Sun,
Venus.
Venus, Rahu, Sun, and Venus.
Okay,
Same.
okay.
You get the point?
So this is the like checking the correctness of the question.
Yes. So
Genuinity of-
once you get this ascendant, every planetary position and the cuspal position gets fixed,
Okay.
because the ascendant arises through the interplay of Sun and Moon. And once you are talking about this number 1200, then Venus, Rahu, Sun, and Venus would be the ascendant co-rulers. Up to
Will
some
this
point.
compulsory tally, sir?
Huh?
Will this compulsory tally?
Yes.
Automatically it tallies.
Automatically tallies. 100%. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So any more questions?
This
So
is
at
in
least one
utilities
planet
you are
should-
getting this, no, sir?
G.
But I'm getting only tables up to 200 or so, not more than that. 1200 I'm not getting.
మ్యామ్ పక్కన ఉంది చూడండి
select
ఒకసారి
select
Sub-
sub select sub
సబ్
ma'am.
ఉంది చూడండి మ్యామ్
Ah.
Sub me the tag.
Utilities
Yes, sir.
show sub and sub tables.
Yes, sir.
Beneath it is given sub table. Select that.
No, sir. It's there is difference. And
The
sub
first column is sub table and the second column is sub
I mean,
table.
the bottom there are 4 tabs.
Yeah, there are
Second
4
tab.
tabs.
Second
Yes,
tab. In the
second tab.
bottom.
Yes,
Bottom
second
also.
tab.
go to the bottom.
Yeah.
Ah.
Go to the bottom and the second tab.
Okay.
Second tab. Press the second tab.
Okay, sir. Let
Now
me.
you get it.
And
Got
just crawling it down.
Okay.
No. In the menu itself,
is-
ma'am,
yes,
the
it
drop down
is
menu,
very
in the drop down menu, in the bottom it is written, ma'am. Second
No.
option is sub table 122193.
This
Yeah.
bottom scroll thing is I'm not getting.
No.
See,
Which
this
table you
sir
are
is
opening?
also showing, yeah.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is the sub table. I again reopen it once more for you. Say you go to utilities,
Yes,
show
sir.
sub and sub tables.
Ah,
Okay. Show sub and sub tables.
yes, sir.
Have you gone to this tab?
Yes, sir.
Click it.
Ah,
You get a table.
that is what, sir. I'm getting only the 249. This bottom.
Really?
Let me check where. Later I'll check, sir.
Sir, on the main chart,
When you
249 may be selected.
when you go to the customize your,
Yes,
so
sir.
then these are the settings. Check the settings. Lunar nodes to coordinates, geocentric correction for notations apply. Outer planets I have excluded. I don't require them. Then
Customize.
ascendant position at the start of cusp 2193 Horary ascendant. Here it is given.
1 minute, sir. Customization.
Hmm.
Astro